Hello everyone, Wizard Bal here. So let's look at Fury Warriors as of November 10th. A hotfix came out for them, increasing their damage, but also let's look at their talents, Azerite, and rotation. So, if you have two-handers, Titan's Grip lets you use two two-handers. This is very common. Most Fury Warriors play this way. But since the Shadowlands patch, they've also allowed one-handers. And it says here that it increases your damage by 12%. So lately I've been playing with one-handers, and I've noticed that the damage is better than with two-handers. So now, for Fury Warriors, the big deal that we have to watch is to keep Enrage active as much as possible. And so Enrage damage done is increased by our mastery, and also while enraged, our haste is increased by 15% and our movement speed by 10%. And Bloodthirst always has a chance to enrage you. Rampage will always enrage you. So when looking at talents, your auto attacks generate 20% more rage. That sounds interesting. Could be good for one-handers since they attack faster than two-handers. Sudden Death. Your attacks have a chance to reset the cooldown of Execute and make it usable at any time. That's pretty useful, because Execute will generate some rage. And then there's Fresh Meat, which enrages you always the first time you strike a target, and then it just increases your chance to trigger Enrage with Bloodthirst by 15%. So personally I go with Sudden Death. And why is that? Because as I said, it generates 20 rage. So these other two things may help you generate rage, sure, but since this is random, it can happen at the beginning of a fight, the middle of the fight, or the end, at any time in between those points. And so, with Recklessness active, which is one of your big cooldowns, your rage generation is increased by 100%. So with this active and a Sudden Death proc happening, allowing you to use this for free, allows you to generate 40 rage. So that's pretty nice. And this does seem to proc a lot. So then the next row, we've got Double Time, which gives you 2 charges. You charge in, 2 charges. Impending Victory, which for the cost of 10 rage lets you heal for 30% of your max health. To me, this is very, very awesome for PvE when you're soloing, questing, farming, and doing various things. Stormbolt, more frequently used in PvP, gives you a 4-second stun. So next there's Massacre, allowing you to use Execute sooner than 20%. This becomes active at usable on enemies that have less than 20% health. So this would allow you to use it sooner and more often. That's not bad. That could be pretty good. I haven't tried that out yet. Maybe someone can. Then there's Frenzy, which has just been changed. It now stacks up 4 times versus 3 times. So I'm going to give this a shot. This will give me 8% haste. As you see, it's haste by 2%, stacking up 4 times. That's 8% haste. So it's a little bit of a nerf from before. So yeah, I might actually try Massacre from now on. And then Onslaught is just an extra attack. Perhaps you want an extra attack on your bars that generates rage. Go with Onslaught. Furious Charge allows your next Bloodthirst to heal you for 250%. This is pretty good. This is not bad. And you mix that with Double Time, you wouldn't need Impending Victory. So there are alternatives to speccing like this. It's all about how you want to play. But Furious Charge, the heal that gives by Bloodthirst is pretty good. And it's very useful in PvP. Yeah, very useful in PvP. Also useful while questing and leveling. This reduces the cooldown on Heroic Leap by 15 seconds. And it also gives you a little 70% run speed boost for 3 seconds. I like this because this just, in Mythic Plus, this allows me to keep up with the tank and the group. And then there's Warpaint, which is you just take 10% less damage while Enrage is active. And since our goal is to keep this active as much as possible, this is okay, but I would suggest you use one of these two. And then we have Seethe, generating 2 rage. Bloodthirst generates 2 more rage on a non-critical, and 4 more rage on a critical. So I like this because this just boosts the effectiveness of Bloodthirst a little bit more. And Bloodthirst is only 3.7 second cooldown, so you use this a lot. But you know, you can choose anything you really want. Rampage has a 20% chance to refund 20 rage. That's okay. I've tried it. I'm not a fan. Rampage costs 80 rage. You know, 1 in 5 gives you back 20 rage. It doesn't seem to add up as quick as, say, using this every, well, 3.7 seconds, and sooner, because you'll have a lot of haste going with Enrage. So it's a shorter cooldown than that. And then Cruelty, while enraged, Raging Blow deals 20% more damage, and a 30% chance to instantly reset its own cooldown. This is okay, you know, this isn't so bad. Raging Blows here, and you have 2 charges. So, being that you're normally enraged most of the fight, this does have a tendency to proc a lot. So, between these two, you have some choices. On this row, personally, I would stick to these two. You know, I've seen a couple of people use Bladestorm. It's a minute cooldown, it generates a little rage, and it does a little damage to 8 targets. It's not bad. It's a free button to press that is like lazy DPS. So is this one. Dragon's Roar. So it deals 1,500 damage, 30-second cooldown, but this one crits for 3 times normal damage. Yeah, that's cool. It's okay. It's bursty, but it's also kind of risky. It doesn't always crit, so that means it's not always going to do as much damage as you want it to. And then there's Meat Cleaver. Whirlwind deals 30% more damage. Whirlwind is your AoE attack. And now affects your next 4 single target melee attacks instead of the next 2. This is personally my favorite in this whole row. You can just hit Whirlwind once, and for your next 4 attacks that you choose to do, 2 blows, a Bloodthirst, a Rampage, whatever, they will all go through to nearby enemies, up to 4 nearby enemies. So this is really nice. This is really, really nice. There's no cooldown. Crit or non-crit, it doesn't matter. All your damage is transferred to up to 4 people. Up to 5. Nope, Whirlwind hits 5 people. And then the damage that it allows you to do is up to 4 nearby people. So it's good. Now in the final row here, we've got Anger Management. Every 20 rage you spend reduces the cooldown of Recklessness by 1 second. Recklessness. What is Recklessness? This is your very important cooldown. This is your big cooldown as a Fury Warrior. This is what you would use perhaps at the start of every fight, and I would suggest you use this all the time. Even in questing, leveling, no matter what you're doing, use Recklessness on cooldown as much as you can. It's only 1.5 minutes cooldown. For me, it's 1.1 minutes because of some gear that I have, but it will be 1.5 minute cooldown in Shadowlands anyways, and for those who are leveling. But still, use it non-stop. So when you spend rage, which you obviously spend a lot of rage through Rampage, that's the benefit. So Rampage, you're constantly wanting to Rampage as part of your rotation, which then reduces the cooldown of Recklessness, which increases your rage generation and gives you 20% crit for 10 seconds. So you're constantly doing Rampage, and Recklessness comes up more frequently. Gives you this nice kind of cyclical style of play where Recklessness is available much more frequently. You could also go with either of these two. Recklessness generates 50 rage, so when you when you use this, every minute and a half, you instantly gain 50 rage. And it makes Bloodthirst and Raging Blow do additional abilities than what they normally do. And I don't remember what it is, but one of them allows you to do a mini charge from a few yards away. I forgot which ability does that, but this one feels really, really weak, personally. Maybe it's strong, I just haven't seen it ever work well. Maybe someone out there can. And then there's Siegebreaker, which is a 30-second cooldown. So you deal 700 damage, and you increase your damage done to the target by 15% for 10 seconds. So this one's okay too. It adds another button on your bars, but if you're looking for some big bursts, say in PvP, this might be the way to go. You hit them with a Siegebreaker, follow up with a Rampage. You know, that's a lot of damage you just dealt in a very short amount of time. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at your talents. And you're free to choose any talents you'd like. I just kind of spoke of why I chose the ones that I chose. So now let's look at Azerite. There are a lot of choices, but usually 2 per spec. So since we're looking at Fury, we're going to ignore everything non-Fury. So you have Pulverizing Blows, which makes Raging Blow here. Every time you use Raging Blow, it'll make your Rampage deal an additional 27 damage. So this one's okay. You know, this can be alright. And then we have Reckless Fury. Reckless Flurry. Auto attacks deal 57 additional damage and reduce the cooldown of Recklessness by 0.1 seconds. That might not seem like a lot, but since I'm using one-handers, I attack much more frequently than with two-handers, and so I'm actually going to take this one. This is a good Azerite trait for the way I'm playing. So now here we have some Azerite pool that appears in the ground that we stand on. And so, since we're a very mobile melee class, we wouldn't want something like this unless we were tanking. So we're going to ignore that for sure. Cold Steel Hot Blood. This is very similar to the talent that we chose that gives us additional rage. So this stacks with the talent, and many Fury warriors often take this Cold Steel Hot Blood Azerite trait on as many pieces of gear as they can. I personally don't. I take it on at least 1 or 2, but I don't put them on all 3. It always depends on the spec I'm playing. I have put all 3 because it is useful, and I'm taking this one right now because the alternatives were terrible. Here we have Gut Ripper, which just hits the target for a little bit of damage. This is a tank thing, so we're not interested. And here we have Crit. So we're definitely going to take the Crit, because Critical Strike is a big deal for generating rage. Self-Reliance, which just heals when no enemies are near, which seems kind of backwards. You're a warrior, you want to get near the enemies. And so we're going to take this one. When dealt a strike greater than 10% of your health, you gain some avoidance and armor. This is nice for Mythic Plus. And then of course you always take the circle that just increases these and increases the item level by 5. So next, the chest. Here again, Pulverizing Blows. We didn't take that on this piece of gear, so we could take it now since we already have Cold Steel Hot Blood. It's nice to sometimes have a balance of things, so you're not so lopsided and stuck on one specific thing to gain all your strength. And then here we have the choice for Gathering Storm, but we didn't take Blade Storm, so we're just going to ignore this one completely. This is niche, you know, we're not going to use it. If you do take that talent, then I would suggest taking this. This does give you a bunch of strength, so it's a big damage boost for a short amount of time. So here, I don't have pulverizing blows, and it's going to increase my damage a little bit on Rampage. And Rampage is your biggest damage dealer. So to balance myself out, I am going to take this. I mean, I would totally be okay taking Cold Blood Hot Steel, which is fine, but I'm going to take Pulverizing Blows. So let's see, we have another one, which is your spells have a chance to grant you 67 mastery and absorb damage for 10 seconds. Well, that's okay. 67 mastery. Mastery increases our damage done when we are enraged. Or Rampage deals extra damage. Okay, alright, I'm into that. Has an 8% chance to grant you recklessness for 4 seconds. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that. A chance. It's a small chance, but it's a chance. And I do like having that chance. So that kind of also balances you out a little bit. So sometimes you're gonna get some free recklessness procs. Here, this gives you crit, haste, mastery, or versatility for 48 for 10 seconds. That's okay, sounds DPS-y to me. Oh, this one again? Oh, this definitely sounds like a tank, so we're taking this one. Oh, self-reliance. Or 4 or more enemies give you a shield that absorbs damage. These are both not that great, but since you'll be in dungeons more often, and you'll be with 4 or more enemies more often, this is the one to take. And then level up. So that's kind of what it looks like for your Azerite. Just make sure that you choose things based on the talents that you chose. So choose your talents first, and then build out your Azerite around it. Some people do that in reverse order. You're free to do either one. But let's also look at neck essences before we move on to rotation. So I've chosen a neck essence that comes from Operation Mechagon, the Vision of Perfection. And what this does is it gives me a chance, randomly, to get a free recklessness. I find that this procs a lot. This happens all the time, so I highly recommend this one. There are many others you can choose. Breath of the Dying is great as a main one for PvP. But if you don't choose this as a main one, that's no big deal. You don't even have to choose it for a secondary. But when it procs, it gives you 21 haste along with your recklessness, so this is pretty cool. A secondary that I highly suggest that you take, no matter what, is the Crucible of Flame. This is just a quest item. You just have to do a quest chain in the Chamber of Heart to get this, and this is one of the best secondary or minor power, this is one of the best minor power neck essences that you can use for Fury Warriors. So now let's look at what the rotation should be in kind of a slow setting here. So first we always want to charge in. This gives us 20 rage, very important. Even if you've started a fight, you can get away from a guy and do a charge, so 20 rage. Then you always want to start with a Bloodthirst after you've charged. That can proc and rage, and we got it. And then make sure when these red line arcs come up, that tells you to rampage, so make sure you always rampage. So we're gonna Bloodthirst, have nothing to do, pop that. I don't have Enrage, so I don't want to use that right now. So what I'm going to do is hold on to that. There's the Enrage, then I'm going to use it. So that increases its damage. Continue. There's the Necklace proc. So there's a lot going on at first. There's a lot to track. There's a lot for you to follow. This is going to take some practice, no doubt. So we could choose this guy and charge in. Okay, let's Whirlwind so we hit people around us, and then Rampage since it's available. Then we execute. Blood Rage, nothing to do, so we use Raging Blow. Let's do a quick Rampage and he's dead. So it's all pretty simple. We just kind of want to start with our Bloodthirst right away after we charge in, and Raging Blows usually the second thing you do because you won't have much rage. And then always, as soon as Rampage is available, use your Rampage. Charge in, Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, Raging Blow, Raging Blow, Bloodthirst. Make sure we always keep Bloodthirst on cooldown. Bloodthirst is... And so it's just like that. Raging Blow, attack. It's pretty simple. So now also let's make sure to use Recklessness. Because we chose Anger Management, we're going to want to use this right before we Rampage. So see, I would charge in, that's maximum, I would hit this, and then I would Rampage. That helps reduce the cooldown right away. Rampage. Bloodthirst, I mean, and it's just that simple. So, let's see what it looks like in a dungeon. I don't really want to talk too much while this is going on, so you can just kind of see what it all looks like, but on the trash here, make sure to note I'm whirlwinding using my abilities, and I don't whirlwind until after I've used those 4 single attacks usually. And also, I use my Recklessness at the beginning of this trash pack, even though the boss is right next to us, and that is because, as I said before, you want to use your Recklessness, your cooldowns, as much as you can with a spec like this, because it will be up frequently. Here in a second you'll see that it's off cooldown and already ready to be used for the boss. So I'll just let you watch what goes on and enjoy. Thank you for watching, everyone.